Triumph. That is the word that springs to mind when describing the profound voyage from dismissive avoidant to secure in 4 stages vertical bar attachment styles. Imagine standing on the threshold of a grand old library, its walls lined with ancient tomes about the deepest mysteries of human connection. In that hushed moment, perhaps your heart flutters with curiosity, or maybe there's just a flicker of intrigue in your eyes. My friend, you have already taken the first brave step. You have chosen to peer into the labyrinth of dismissive avoidant attachment and discovered that there is indeed a path, 4 stages no less, that can guide you from defensive detachment into the warm, welcoming light of security. Allow me to paint the scene in which dismissive avoidance typically thrives. Picture a child who has learned that big emotions, tender confessions, and earnest expressions of need are best kept under lock and key. The caregivers, though they might supply physical essentials, are otherwise distant, or perhaps they were present but unresponsive to the child's emotional overtures, making that young soul feel unseen. Over the years, such a child comes to believe that self-reliance is the golden rule, that vulnerability is a trap, and that those who dare to open up will invariably be met with disappointment or rejection. The adult that emerges from this upbringing often carries a veneer of independence so polished, so resolute, that any hint of emotional dependence seems an intolerable offense. But beneath that steely exterior lurks a quiet ache. Many dismissive avoidants feel defective, though they might not call it that. There is a sense, like a dull, ever-present hum in the background, that something within them is missing or not enough. Their inner dialogue might revolve around questions like, "Why can't I feel what others feel?" Or, "Why do I find it so difficult to connect?" In response, they bury themselves deeper in their solitary routines. Close relationships, once they reach a certain level of emotional intimacy, cause an internal alarm to blare. So, the dismissive avoidant departs, or distances themselves, before that closeness can jeopardize their sense of self-protection. Yet, and here is where triumph steps in, this pattern can be dismantled. There are 4 stages to this metamorphosis, each one a milestone on the journey to secure attachment, much like a seed slowly pushing through the soil to greet the sun. These stages require perseverance, patience, and a willingness to confront old beliefs. Let us venture into each of these stages, weaving in stories, reflections, and a hint of good humor to keep us company along the way. If you think of our entire odyssey as a train ride, stage 1 is where you hear the engine hiss, see the wheels jerk, and feel the locomotive lurch forward. It's slow, it's clunky, but it's beginning. For dismissive avoidance, this first stage often manifests as an unexpected brush with feeling. Let's call it the flicker of feeling, because it is the moment in which you realize your emotions are not solely intellectual concepts. They're sensations in the body, pulses in the heart, signals that your unconscious is trying to communicate. Imagine a man named Richard, whose approach to relationships has always been, shall we say, methodical. He invests himself fully in his career, priding himself on his self-sufficiency. When his partner tries to express a worry or a need, Richard tries to solve it logically. Rarely does he consider that an emotional response might be more appropriate. Then, one day, Richard notices a pang in his stomach after a heated conversation. Rather than swat this discomfort away, he pauses and wonders, "Why do I feel so uneasy?" He realizes to his amazement that he is anxious about losing his partner's affection. This epiphany is the flicker of feeling. Suddenly, the dismissive avoidant acknowledges that behind the calm facade, real emotions exist, and these emotions have been suppressed, or at least relegated to the dusty corners of the mind for far too long. This stage can be jarring. A dismissive avoidant might feel surprised by the depth or intensity of their emotions, a sense of confusion, I've gone years without feeling this strongly. Why now? An inkling of shame, as though vulnerability is an uninvited guest barging into a private dinner party. Nevertheless, it is also liberating. You discover that your so-called detachment was, in fact, a fortress built atop a shifting foundation of unaddressed feelings. The flicker of feeling stage often leads to self-inquiry. One might begin to label what arises. Is this sadness? Is this anger? Is this fear? Each label is akin to a small lantern, illuminating the previously shadowy terrain of the heart. For those observing a loved one in this stage, patience is key. The dismissive avoidant is grappling with something new and not entirely comfortable. They might oscillate between leaning into these newfound emotions and pulling back in alarm. The essential point is that the door has cracked open. The flicker of emotion is visible, even if fleeting, and with gentle consistency the seeds of awareness are sown. Once the flicker of emotion is acknowledged, the second stage is all about putting the puzzle pieces together. Think of it as rummaging through an old attic and finally sorting through the dusty boxes that have accumulated there. This is where the dismissive avoidant begins to recognize patterns from childhood, to observe how old beliefs and coping mechanisms have shaped their current approach to relationships. Let's consider Serena. She grew up in a household where her parents were preoccupied. Whenever little Serena showed signs of distress, her parents would respond minimally, "It's okay, just deal with it." She internalized the idea that expressing need was an inconvenience, that independence was the only path to acceptance, or at least to the absence of punishment. Now, as an adult, Serena wonders why she's perpetually uncomfortable when her partner says, "I need you right now." She might bristle, roll her eyes, or feel an inexplicable urge to flee the situation. In stage 2, she'll connect the dots, seeing how her childhood blueprint taught her to reflexively recoil from dependence. She'll think, I see. My parents always told me to handle emotions alone, so I learned to treat closeness as a threat." This puzzle piece stage also reveals how the dismissive avoidance mind thinks its feelings rather than purely experiences them. Consider the scenario. An emotion arises, fear for instance, and instead of sinking into the raw sensation, the dismissive avoidant quickly shifts to intellectual analysis. Why am I afraid? Is this fear logical? Let me rationalize it away by focusing on tasks. But now, in stage 2, they begin to notice they're doing this. They catch themselves analyzing instead of feeling. That newfound awareness is a sign of progress, for you can only address a pattern once you recognize it. A crucial element of stage 2 is re-evaluating the negative beliefs formed in childhood. For many dismissive avoidants, there's a central narrative of defectiveness, the haunting thought that they are somehow flawed if they need someone's help. But the more puzzle pieces they gather, the more they see that this narrative is a relic from the past, not an absolute truth. They begin to test new, healthier beliefs. Maybe I am allowed to want support. Maybe vulnerability is not synonymous with catastrophe. Stage 2 can be disorienting. At times, individuals might feel a sense of identity confusion, thinking, if I'm no longer the self-sufficient rock who never needs anyone, then who am I? Yet, as with any puzzle, the picture becomes clearer and more coherent the further along you go. The mind starts to calm, ironically, because it finally has a context for the chaos within. Understanding your internal map, where it was drawn, which roads are outdated, can be remarkably empowering. And now, we arrive at a turning point. The locomotive chugs more confidently down the track. In stage 3, the real metamorphosis begins. All that newfound awareness from the puzzle stage blossoms into active change. We might call this the fire of transformation, because it is here that the dismissive avoidant steps up to the forge, hammer in hand, ready to reshape old habits and beliefs into something more flexible and life-affirming. In this stage, emotional experiences deepen. The dismissive avoidant not only acknowledges feelings, but starts to express them, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. They learn practical tools to manage triggers. For instance, consider how they might respond when a partner says, "We need to talk." Historically, that phrase might have sent them scampering for the nearest exit. But now, instead of succumbing to the old panic, they pause. They remind themselves, "This is just a conversation. I can hold space for it. My partner's request for communication isn't an assault on my independence." Yes, perhaps there's still a flicker of anxiety, but they choose to lean in anyway, trusting that they can handle the discomfort and not be swallowed by it. Self-compassion also takes root in stage 3. Often, dismissive avoidants carry a measure of self-criticism, so ingrained they scarcely realize it's there. They might think, "I should be stronger. I shouldn't need therapy. I shouldn't be so weak." But through consistent introspection, they learn a gentler script. "I'm human. I'm allowed to struggle. There's no shame in working through these emotions." And with this shift, a delicate warmth blossoms. They start offering themselves the understanding they were denied in childhood, building the foundation for stable self-worth. A hallmark feature of stage 3 is the exploration of new relational skills. Open communication becomes less of a dreaded chore and more of an opportunity for closeness. A dismissive avoidant might, for the first time, ask, "When I pull away, how does that make you feel?" And then truly listen to the response without becoming defensive. When conflict arises, they might practice describing their emotions, no matter how foreign that feels. Over time, these small choices accumulate into a robust skill set: conflict resolution, empathetic listening, healthy boundary setting, and so forth. Expect mistakes here, dear friend. Nobody is perfect on the first attempt at anything, let alone rewriting the deep emotional scripts of a lifetime. There will be missteps, misunderstandings, perhaps a meltdown or two when old triggers flare up unexpectedly. But in stage 3, the overall trajectory is upward. Imagine a spiral staircase. You might circle around to familiar difficulties, but each turn places you a little higher than you were before. In time, a sense of optimism takes hold as the dismissive avoidant sees genuine evidence of their capacity to change. This stage can be thrilling, like tasting a forbidden fruit. "I never realized genuine closeness could feel this good," they might confess. Perhaps they start extending small gestures of affection, spontaneously offering a hug, or planning a weekend getaway to share deeper experiences. Or maybe they sit quietly with their partner, tears in their eyes, finally allowing the waves of sorrow from old neglect to be acknowledged. However painful that sorrow may be, there is relief in letting it out. It is the relief of a burdened traveler finally setting down a heavy load. If stage 3 is the fiery forge of transformation, then stage 4 is the sturdy cathedral built on new ground. We call this solidification, a stage where the behaviors, beliefs, and emotional regulation techniques introduced earlier become second nature. You might say the previously dismissive, avoidant individual now feels at home within themselves. The push and pull of old attachment dynamics no longer dominates their inner world. To illustrate this stage, consider James, who once dreaded serious talks with his girlfriend. In stage 4, he sits at the breakfast table, sipping coffee, casually discussing weekend plans or a small disagreement from the night before. There's no sense of impending doom, no frantic need to flee. Rather, James experiences a calm curiosity. "I wonder how we can compromise on this." He genuinely wants to understand her perspective, and he's equally comfortable voicing his own. This is security in action, a willingness to be vulnerable combined with a quiet self-confidence that you can handle whatever arises. Solidification is not about perfection. Even a person with a secure attachment style will have off days, make mistakes, or occasionally feel the tug of old insecurities. But now, there is an underlying belief that those insecurities do not define the self. nor do they define the relationship. Instead, they're seen as fleeting moments that can be addressed with clarity and compassion. In stage 4, the dismissive avoidant has effectively reprogrammed the notion that closeness is a trap. They see closeness as an opportunity, a chance to share joys, to support one another through hardships, to build a life that is richer for having two hearts engaged rather than one. One might compare this to learning a new language. At first, you struggle to recall vocabulary, piece sentences together, and avoid grammatical blunders. Over time, however, you gain fluency. Eventually, you don't even think about conjugations or grammar. You simply speak. In stage 4, the ex-dismissive avoidant simply communicates with natural ease, sets boundaries without drama, and welcomes emotional intimacy without descending into panic. The new ways of being have been woven into the fabric of who they are. It is in this final stage that many look back with gratitude. Some are startled by how much time passed in fear, how many opportunities for closeness were missed, how many misunderstandings took root. Yet there is also pride. I have traveled from a place of near emotional isolation to a place of empathy and mutual support. The sense of empowerment can be remarkable. Friends, family, even co-workers might notice the shift. Perhaps the individual's entire energy seems more relaxed, open and welcoming. The fortress walls that once stood around them have largely crumbled, replaced by a gentle boundary that offers protection without shutting the world out. At this juncture, allow a small reflection on the nature of personal change. If we were to measure transformation with a yardstick, we would find that healing is rarely linear. It swerves and loops, like a meandering river that sometimes doubles back on itself. One day, you might feel the joys of stage 4, calm, connected, and confident, only to be blindsided by an old trigger that flings you back into old anxieties. "How can this be?" you might exclaim. "I thought I was past all that." Such moments are not evidence of failure. They're merely signposts that you have more territory to explore, more neural pathways to rewire, more puzzle pieces to integrate. Over time, these relapses become less frequent and less intense. You learn to handle them with a sense of equanimity, reminding yourself, "I have the tools, I have the understanding, I can navigate this." The length and intensity of these slip-ups diminish, while the stretches of secure behavior lengthen and become more natural. In each of the 4 stages, the crucial element is consistency. Repetition is how the human brain learns. One cannot simply read about empathy, vulnerability, or open communication and expect to internalize these concepts overnight. It is by testing new behaviors in real-life scenarios, offering a piece of your heart here, setting a small boundary there, reflecting on the outcome each time, that transformation takes hold. Think of it as daily training, much like practicing a musical instrument. Each scale, each chord, each run might seem mundane, but over time you develop mastery and can play beautifully without second thought. Let us delve into some illustrative stories, little vignettes that might resonate with the dismissive avoidant experience. Perhaps in doing so, these examples will spark recognition or even a touch of hope. Stage 1. Flicker of feeling. Gregory, a middle-aged software engineer, has just finished a Zoom meeting. A colleague politely mentions that Gregory seemed a bit off lately. Something about that small comment lodges in Gregory's mind, and he notices a hollow feeling in his chest. Off, he wonders. I'm not off. Well, perhaps I do feel a tad anxious. Later that evening, he tries journaling for the first time in years. He writes, "I'm worried I might lose my job if I don't perform perfectly." Gregory had never identified this worry before. He'd buried such fears under piles of rationalizations. He closes his journal, a bit astonished that he's naming an emotion. That is the flicker of feeling, a seemingly simple discovery, yet monumental in its implications. Stage 2, placing the puzzle pieces. Rebecca, a former college athlete, is used to self-reliance. Growing up, her parents often told her, "Cry babies never win." She ridicules her best friend for seeking emotional support in times of stress, thinking she's too sensitive. Then, while reading a book on attachment styles, Rebecca stumbles across a chapter describing dismissive avoidance. Each sentence feels like someone has peered into her soul: the avoidance of closeness, the fear of vulnerability, the self-perceived defectiveness. Shocked, she recalls her childhood, her father's stern stares whenever she asked for help, her mother's aloofness. Suddenly, it all clicks. I learned that needing people was weakness, so I built my life around never needing anyone. In a wave of clarity, she sees how those old beliefs have shaped her adult relationships. She sits with the realization, tears welling up. That is puzzle piece assembly at its finest. Stage 3, Fire of Transformation. In one of her relationships, Lucy, a dedicated scientist, often froze whenever her partner said, "We need to talk about something important." Historically, Lucy would respond by muttering, "Sure, maybe tomorrow," then disappearing into her research for hours on end. But after months of therapy and self-reflection, she makes a new choice. When her partner approaches her this time, Lucy says, "I'm listening. Tell me what's on your mind." She notices her heart rate spike, but she breathes through it. Instead of pushing away the anxiety, she acknowledges it. "I feel anxious because I'm afraid I won't have a solution to your problem. But I also realize it's okay to listen and just be present." The conversation, to Lucy's surprise, deepens their bond rather than threatening it. She feels a sense of accomplishment, a warmth that has eluded her for years. The old Lucy might have retreated. The new Lucy embraces open dialogue. That's transformation in motion. Stage 4, Solidification. Daniel, once the epitome of dismissive avoidance, has been in a stable relationship for a full year. His partner praises him for his consistency, his willingness to share feelings, and the comfort he provides during difficult times. Daniel's friends notice he's more at ease in social settings, even initiating plans, something he rarely did before. Conflict no longer sends him scurrying. He addresses issues calmly, trusting that disagreements do not equate to the end of love. When asked about his journey, Daniel remarks, "I used to think I was just a lone wolf. Now I see that I'm capable of so much connection. It's been a long road, but I feel proud of where I am." He still occasionally flinches at the prospect of deep vulnerability, but he recovers quickly, reminding himself that closeness does not extinguish independence. That is the hallmark of Stage 4, a stable, secure sense of self that allows for genuine intimacy. While each stage arises naturally once the journey begins, certain actions can accelerate and deepen the progress. Nervous system regulation, particularly important for dismissive avoidants, who often learned early on that feelings are dangerous. Techniques like deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or mindfulness practices can help the body unlearn its fight or flight response to emotional closeness. Reprogramming core beliefs. Identify the old negative scripts. I'm defective. Others will trap me. I must rely only on myself. And challenge them. Replace them with balanced truths, such as I can be independent and still enjoy closeness, or I deserve love, flaws and all. Affirmations and cognitive behavioral techniques are valuable here. Gradual vulnerability. Instead of attempting to share every buried secret in one dramatic swoop, take small steps. Open up about a mild disappointment. Discuss a dream or aspiration. Ask for a little assistance. Each successful experience of being vulnerable without catastrophic rejection builds trust in the process. Therapeutic support. Working with a counselor or therapist well-versed in attachment theory can provide personalized guidance and accountability. Group workshops or online courses with structured exercises also help build momentum through community support. Journaling and self-reflection. Keeping a record of emotional experiences, however trivial they might seem, reinforces awareness. When triggers occur, note them. What happened? How did I feel? How did I respond? What could I do differently next time? Over weeks and months, these reflections become a roadmap of your emerging emotional landscape. Communication practice. Seek out safe friends or a trusted partner to practice. The more you speak openly about your inner states, the less intimidating it becomes. Over time, your brain rewires itself to see emotional expression as normal, even fulfilling. Every heroic journey faces challenges, and so does the path from dismissive avoidant to secure attachment. Common pitfalls include backsliding during stress. A major life event, such as job loss, illness, or familial discord, can trigger a reversion to old coping patterns. In these moments, it's vital to revisit the tools of regulation and self-compassion. Remind yourself that progress is not erased by a single slip. Misinterpretation of emotions. Early in the journey, many dismissive avoidants find themselves perplexed by what they are feeling. Is it anger, sadness, fear, or a swirl of all three? Learning the subtleties of emotional nuance takes practice. Patience and perhaps a bit of humor can make this learning curve gentler. Over-reliance on intellectualization. Because dismissive avoidants excel at rational thought, they might cling to analysis rather than stepping into the vulnerability of raw emotion. While reason is a fine servant, it becomes a tyrant if it consistently overshadows feeling. Striking a balance is key. Underestimating the need for rest. Emotional work can be draining. It's easy to forget to take breaks, to indulge in hobbies, or simply to allow the mind and heart to recover from intense introspection. Self-care is not a luxury. It is essential to sustainable progress. Despite these challenges, perseverance will yield splendid rewards. Think of the swirling illusions that once clouded your mind. I have to handle everything alone. Emotional closeness is dangerous. I'm too flawed to be truly loved. As you push through each stage, those illusions fade like morning mist under a rising sun. In their place emerges a core confidence and a sense of peace. The knowledge that you can stand on your own 2 feet and still let another pair of feet walk beside you. You may wonder, what does life truly look like once I've embraced secure attachment? Imagine a future scenario. You're sitting at a family gathering, perhaps a birthday celebration or holiday meal. In the past, you might have felt uneasy, finding reasons to slip away early. Now, you engage in lively conversation, share jokes, or even open up about a recent difficulty at work. There is a new warmth in the way you interact. Relatives notice you're more present, more attuned. You feel no pressing need to conceal your inner world. When a cousin inquires about your relationship, you beam with pride, speaking calmly of how you and your partner support each other through ups and downs. Or envision yourself at work. In a team meeting, you confidently share ideas and even ask for feedback, a stark contrast to the old days when you would handle projects solo to avoid scrutiny or collaboration. Colleagues see you as approachable, someone who not only excels at tasks, but also fosters a positive atmosphere. You have formed deeper friendships with a few co-workers, discovering that forging professional bonds does not compromise your independence. On the contrary, it enriches the shared experience. In your private moments, you learn to revel in solitude rather than cling to it for dear life. You can relax at home with a good book or a film, not because you're avoiding closeness, but because you genuinely enjoy your own company. A subtle difference, yes, but a vital one. It is the difference between loneliness and solitude, between isolation and comfortable independence. You realize that you can share your life with someone else without merging identities. That closeness does not annihilate personal freedom. To put it simply, secure attachment weaves your relationships into a tapestry that is both vivid and sturdy. You experience trust that people are not inherently out to betray or overwhelm you. You develop curiosity about others' inner lives, just as you do about your own. You can hold space for conflicting opinions without the reflexive terror that you might be engulfed or abandoned. In short, your emotional range expands. Your ability to connect deepens, and your self-assurance solidifies. The fortress you once built around your heart is replaced by well-chosen, permeable boundaries that let the good in while still safeguarding your individuality. As we approach our conclusion, take a moment to reflect on how far-reaching the shift from dismissive avoidant to secure can be. It transcends romantic relationships, coloring friendships, professional environments, family ties, and most crucially, your relationship with yourself. Moving through these 4 stages, feeling, puzzle piecing, transforming, and finally solidifying, requires intention and, yes, courage. There will be days you feel unstoppable, brimming with hope, and days you feel defeated by old shadows. That is the nature of profound change. Each stage invites you to peel back another layer of the protective shell that once defined you. Each new layer reveals a more authentic self, one capable of giving and receiving love without an ever-present fear of entrapment or loss. Remember, no matter how impenetrable your defenses may seem, they are but a product of learned responses from days long past. You were not born dismissive or avoidant. You simply adapted to the environment you inherited. Now, armed with awareness and determination, you can adapt yet again, this time toward a secure, more fulfilling way of living. For those who feel daunted, recall the image of the train leaving the station. Its initial lurches are hesitant, almost awkward, but once momentum builds, the journey unfolds with steady progress. So too does your personal journey. The first step, stage 1's flicker of feeling, might be the hardest because it challenges the belief that you do not, or should not, feel much at all. Yet every subsequent stage builds upon the last, and before long, you'll find yourself in a place that once seemed unimaginable. As you navigate from dismissive avoidant to secure, you grant yourself the gift of deeper connection and genuine belonging. You also grant the people in your life the gift of truly knowing you, your dreams, your fears, your joys, and your hopes. And as you shed the limitations of old narratives, you step into a future that is shaped by choice rather than compulsion. Your relationships become partnerships in discovery rather than battlegrounds for defense. So triumph indeed is the right word. Triumph over the once rigid walls. Triumph over the illusions of defectiveness and isolation. Triumph over the fear that kept you from fully living. And with that triumph comes a gentleness as well. A gentle understanding that you've been doing your best all along, and that with each step forward, you learn to do even better. In the grand tapestry of life, few transformations offer rewards as profoundly satisfying as evolving your attachment style. Whether you're just awakening to the first glimmers of self-awareness, or already well on your way to secure connection, know this. Your bravery in facing these 4 stages ripples outward, influencing not just your own journey, but also uplifting those who care about you. Secure attachment radiates a sense of safety that others can sense. It invites them to open their hearts in turn, nurturing a cycle of positivity that spreads far beyond the boundaries of your individual story. Thus ends our exploration of the 4 transformative stages. Yet the conversation continues for you in real life. Embrace these stages, practice the skills, and honor each moment of self-discovery. In time, you may look back with astonishment at the distance you have traveled. It is a testament to human resilience that we can overcome the emotional legacies of our past and craft a present built on openness, warmth, and genuine connection. Remember, from dismissive avoidant to secure is not merely an abstract concept. It is a living, breathing possibility, one that promises deeper intimacy, more authentic relationships, and above all, a renewed sense of trust in yourself. If you are willing to do the work, to gather the puzzle pieces and step into the fire of transformation, you will emerge in that place of solidification, where security feels not like a distant aspiration, but an everyday reality. And that, dear friend, is worth every ounce of effort you invest. Thank you for allowing this reflection on From Dismissive Avoidant to Secure in 4 Stages, Vertical Bar Attachment Styles. May it inspire you toward the bold and beautiful task of living with a more open heart, cherishing both your independence and your innate capacity for meaningful closeness. And, in the spirit of triumph, may you wear your newfound security with grace, curiosity, and a twinkle of wonder in your eye. After all, this is your story. Why not make it a magnificent one?
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.